Welcome back, everybody. I'm so excited to have another amazing guest with us today here at Desk Careers. We are zooming out to Fujairah, where we meet Eric Steere, who is the College and Career Advisor at Diyar International Private School. Welcome, Eric. Welcome to Desk Careers.
Thanks a lot for having me, Maria, and I'm really happy to be back at Desk, this time virtually.
It is so exciting to see you. Now, anyone watching this right now, what you don't know is that Eric and I are both career practitioners, and we work in a community called the UAE Careers Community here in the region, always about enriching careers education. So it's amazing to have a fellow colleague with me here, and also an individual who not only had an amazing career journey himself, but is also very, very passionate about helping the youth to find their next academic or even career pathway ahead. But before we get into career practicing as a career, I'd like to talk a little bit more, or let's get started and talk about your personal journey from when you were a young teenager to where you are today. Where did it all start for you, Eric?
You know, that's one of the things. When I was at Desk, I really identified with a lot of the action and flurry that I saw going on in your school with all of the universities coming to visit, and it reminded me of the time I was 17 and 18 years old and making those decisions myself. Going back to high school, I didn't have a clear idea of what I wanted to do, but my passions were very clear, and I have been, and I think continue to be, somebody motivated by the things I really, really care about more than the things I want for myself. So as a high school student, I loved language, I loved literature, I loved history and politics, and these were areas I knew I'd be interested in. But more important than the academic area was the sense of adventure that I knew I wanted in life. And that's what led me to apply to universities outside the United States, because I knew I wanted a different kind of experience than I had in my high school. So that international education experience is something that I fell in love with, and I think I've been on an international education kick since I graduated high school. I think since 18, I've lived 12 or 13 of the last 15 years internationally, and almost all of it in education.
And I like that you bring up that university journey, because I know that there are students watching this right now thinking, tell us more about that university journey. And that's what young people think the destination is. As a career practitioner, we know that's not the destination, but rather it's part of the journey. Talk to us about being a student of international relations when you were at the University of St. Andrews. What was it like? What are some of the things that you learned that you think, you know what, these were great learning milestones that I can only now looking back really appreciate?
Really great question, Maria. Thank you. When you're going through, when I went through the college application process, there's a tendency of a lot of the guidance to make you plan point A to point B to point C to point D. And when I ended up studying at the University of St. Andrews, and my course was international relations, and that came about organically because I knew that I was interested in the way that countries interacted, and then I started to envision for myself, what would it be like to work in international business or foreign affairs? And it seemed like that path was so entrenched that I would go to university, I'd do the internships, I'd get the experience, and then I'd be working for the UN when I graduated. And all along the way, I loved what I was studying. I loved those internships. I interned for an investment bank on Wall Street in my first year with a different set of people than I ever thought I'd be working with. These were guys that had the dollar signs on their suspenders, and guys were taking the helicopter to the golf course for lunch from downtown Manhattan. I was like, wow, what a world, right? And then also I was interning in a more academic environment with the university. I worked for the Center for the Study of Terrorism and Political Violence, and we researched radicalization in Europe. This is again after the time, right after 9/11. and security issues were at the forefront in this field. And that was another area where but in both of those areas, I didn't know if I fit the bill. Everybody wore shiny brown shoes, and I was a little bit more of an academic. So when I graduated, even with these internships, I graduated in the midst of a recession. It was 2008. All around me, everybody was struggling to get jobs, and I left the UK, which had been my home for 4 years, coming back to New York, and I thought, oh, I'll walk into a job. I was wrong, Maria, and that was what really the first challenge I faced all through school. Academically, I never struggled with academic success, really. I was lucky in that regard, but graduating put me into a different situation.
I like that you talk about the recession in 2008. Right now, currently, we're all finding our way through this pandemic, and it's hit the globe on such a scale. Unemployment has been, I think it's being described as the highest it's ever been since the Great Depression. And young people are preparing for careers, but not really sure what's going to be waiting for them on the other side of this journey. For some, they'll be walking into employment, you know, as early as the next 5 years, others a little bit longer. What did you learn finding work through that recession that you think this is something that definitely a young person should be thinking about? Because unemployment through a time when there is such an amount of people all searching for work, finding a job is hard on a normal day, but through a recession or through a pandemic, it makes it even so much more emotional and so much harder. What do you suggest?
Well, you know, I can really identify with where I see our students, young people right now, the challenges that they're going to face. It's not easy. But that doesn't mean that we should throw up our hands and say, okay, let's stop making plans, because it's really important to have definite things that you want to do, definite objectives, and then work towards them. Now, those plans may and probably will go awry, but that doesn't mean that your story has to be one of going awry. Really, the challenges that you will face are going to be the things that define you, and the way that you respond to those challenges will define you in more ways than the plans that you originally made, and in sometimes really exciting ways. I mean, these stories abound in successful people. If you read the stories of people like J.K. Rowling or Steve Jobs, or so many people for that matter, and in my own instance, those initial hurdles of graduating in a tough time really forced me to hone my own skills in a way, and also hone my own experiences in a way that made me competitive, and also lead a life that has continued to be really exciting for me. And that's two advice I would give to kids in this environment. One is, if resilience, if strength is not part of your identity right now, you need to make it one. Absolutely, because no matter what your plans are, you might say, oh, I want an easy job. There is no easy job in this life. And whether it's professionally or personally, you know, and I think it's really helpful to think about all of the things that we do holistically, because career isn't one part of your life and personal is another part of your life. Everything that we do each day relates to how we identify with ourselves as a person. So again, if strength and resilience, if you don't identify these traits with yourself, you need to start doing that. And there's so many ways of doing that. Challenge yourself, do things, step outside of your comfort zone, because regardless of where you're heading, you're going to have to do that eventually. And these are the only things that you'll be able to rely on in many instances. Another advice I will share, and the way that I was able to navigate a time when not only were freshers not being hired, but mid-career, experienced career professionals were being let go, is you need to think critically, what are my skills and what can I bring to an institution or any organization? Now, I was an art student, right? So that makes it trickier. I had friends who are engineers, computer scientists, IT, STEM. I had friends who are pilots, and they had an easier time in many ways. So I had to break it down. What are my skills? Is it thinking about post-colonial literature? Is it about these might be interesting or helpful in an academic environment, but when I distilled it, really, I realized, oh, my skill is in distilling complex problems into easy solutions, and in writing. And it's in writing that I found my first jobs after this graduation, and it's where I found the most excitement and my identity, actually, as a young adult coming up.
I love that you call it an identity, because it really is. It's footprints of what we are passionate about, together with the skills that we have, and it kind of brings it all together as what we would call identity. How does it feel now being in a seat where you're guiding the youth after going through that journey from interning with investment bankers who are jet setting off to the golf course to now sitting down with young people and saying, let's look at college applications, let's consider universities abroad, and let's help you to really identify your identity so that you feel empowered?
Maria, there's nowhere else I'd rather be. And I pray that for the young people who are watching this and the young people that I work with, that they also are in a situation in a few years from now where they're in the seat where they want to be and feel like they need to be. And I think that all of these challenges and all of these things and the experiences are so wide-ranging. My work as a writer led me to work on different kinds of materials for different kinds of clients than I ever thought possible. I didn't even think you could write this many different things. Which is exciting in its own way, right? But all of these experiences made it such a perfect, inform me in such a perfect way of all of the different things that you can do in this world. You don't have to just be this profession or that profession. There is a niche in every culture for every kind of person. And it's so exciting to work with young people to say, hey, what are you interested in? What do you really care about? And let's look at the world outside and see what you can do in it, because there's so much. I mean, I can't imagine a more exciting field or position to be in. It reminds me of two things. One, I'm an abstract thinker. I love poetry, and I love thinking about dreams and things that people love. So passion. And I think when you're in career counseling, you are talking and thinking about the big ideas, the big picture. You're zooming out, but then also it's very specific and detail oriented at the same time, almost like a sports season. In university applications, you have a season where you need to get all of this in. And then at the end, you do have results. So it's like, this is your win-loss record. And it combines these two things for me in such an exciting way. And just one more thing I'll share about this is I knew that me as a person, I need excitement. I need this. The most scary thing to me is not, I guess, the most scary thing to me is boredom and a situation where I'm not learning. And this field really puts me into a situation where I'm always learning about people and different cultures and different opportunities. And this whole landscape is always changing. And that's what's happened and continues to happen this year too.
Amazing. I cannot agree with you more. I can feel that passion that you have. I try not to say that word so lightly. I know it's overused in today's times, but I can't think of another adjective to describe what it feels like to be listening to you. And I know that the work you do with the youth, it's not just what you know to be right, it's what you feel to be right as well. And I see in the work that you do as well. Now, top 3 career tips. You say that do what you care about. I heard you say it a few times. I really care about what I'm doing. You know, if you want to be a successful writer, then you need to be writing every day is another one of your tips. Reading and dealing with criticism. How do you continue to do what you care about if you're young and you don't really know that what you care about is really what's going to help drive employment and bring an income into your family?
Well, that's a tough question, Maria, but I think the answer is actually not a hard one. You're young. So be open to new experiences. Don't turn them down. If you have time, if you have energy and you're interested, go for it. That's how you learn. And I think especially when I'm working with young people, I think that they can afford to be more inclusive and less exclusive of the things that they will consider. I find that too often, and this is something when I was in India, for example, I was working in counseling in India, and this is also a problem with a lot of different kinds of schools, that students so early on have pigeonholed themselves or been pigeonholed into a specific stream that leads to a specific profession. I know personally in the last 15 years, my own interests have evolved. And when I was 17, they evolved every 3 months, you know, so you should have a flexible and open idea of what's important to you. But the other side of that is, Maria, you nailed a really important thing. What is economically viable for you? We have limited resources in terms of what time and money we can invest in things. So when you're looking for results for something, look for that feeling that you still, after working very hard, you're getting good results and you're feeling full. You know, you can have a meal where you sit down, it's a lot of food, and you eat it and you don't feel satisfied afterward. If you are doing a work or a job or any activity and you're working really hard and you're not feeling that satisfaction in a holistic sense, that might be a cue for you to look elsewhere, because ultimately, we spend a lot of time in these places. I'm here in this office more than 40 hours a week. That's a lot of time. You know, you want to be in a place where you care about. And ultimately, at the highest level, Maria, everything is financially viable if you do it to a high level. Be the best. You know, find a way to monetize your passion. People are doing it all the time now, online. Social media, people are finding ways to make money doing what they care about more than I think at any point in history. So I think the key to success is less about looking where the money is and instead looking inside and saying, this is what I care about. How can I make money doing this? How can I support myself doing this? And I think you'll find a way.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Eric. This brings us to the end of an amazing interview. I could ask you questions. Your insights, your wisdom, your journey, very, very inspiring. And I know that young people watching this and the community watching this will really feel that commitment that you have to helping the youth through your experience and your journey. And that brings us right to the end. We spoke with Eric Steere, who's based in the UAE out in Fujairah. He is currently a college and career advisor for Diyar International Private School in Fujairah. Lucky bunch of students they have to have Eric Steere supporting them through this career journey. Thank you everybody for watching. Thank you, Eric, for joining us. And I look forward to seeing you all at our next Desk Careers Spotlight.
Thank you so much. Thank you.